Good morning, folks. Grumpy with Granny and Grumpy's homestead. And we're out in the garden again this morning. As you can see, we used to have corn here. And Friday, I went ahead and pulled all the corn up. That was that was my 4th of July celebration, pulling up corn. And I went ahead and shucked all the corn, put it in buckets, and we're storing it now. And so what we thought we would do is use this space again this season, because here in North Carolina we have a pretty long growing season, and so our first frost is somewhere probably around November, maybe mid-November, sometimes early November. So we got July, August, September, October. We got at least 4 months of growing season left here. What we want to do is plant some pole beans. And here's a variety that we really like. It's called Fortex. There's several different suppliers you can get this from. We bought these from Johnny's, but anyway, it's a really good variety. The thing that we really like about it is that there's no strings in this, no strings attached. That's what I like. And so you just snap them, put them in your pot and cook them, and away you go. But the first year that we grew these Fortex, this was at least 10 years ago. We started them in the spring, probably in April, mid-April, and we were picking beans for all the way up to the frost. I mean, it was the most incredible thing you ever saw. I mean, when it got later in the fall, the production decreased quite a bit. But in November, when we got our frost, I just decided I would leave the rest of the fruit on the vines and let them go to maturity, so we saved the seed for the next year. And so that's one big advantage with pole beans. They produce for a lot longer time than your standard bush varieties. That's one reason we like pole beans. They just keep going and going and going. If they don't get diseased, which we were fortunate that year and other years to not have disease with them. In this garden here, we're trying to incorporate a no-till system. There's a lot of information on the internet, a lot of videos that have been made on that. You can check that out if you like. One big advantage to using no-till is that there's a certain type of fungus that the Lord put in the ground. It's called mycorrhiza, and it's very beneficial to plants. And what it does, it forms these long tendrils that just go out into the soil, and they pick up different minerals. They chelate the minerals, and then they'll attach to the roots of plants, and they'll actually feed the roots those minerals. I mean, is that amazing or what? And then in return, the plant says thank you by sending some sugar, some carbohydrate down to the roots to nourish the mycorrhiza. So it's a symbiotic relationship, God put in place there that we overlook sometimes. We don't see all the intricacies of how God made this world and how everything works together for good. But this is one reason that we're trying this new system of no-till. The mycorrhiza puts out these long tendrils. They go out, they can be 3 feet long. And they just go out and grab nutrients and bring them back to their prospective roots to feed. And so a lot of farmers have found that if they incorporate no-till, it makes the ground the tilth of the ground becomes much better. If they get the right nutrients in the soil, the right amount of the microbes, the earthworms, all these things, they actually bring the tilth of the soil up to where it's very absorptive. In fact, I don't remember the guy's name, but one gentleman did a video on this, and he was talking about how if you use this system and do it right and get the soil balanced with all the right microbes and nutrients and all this, he said that one huge benefit is they don't have flooding. And he was talking about one year in his state, might have been Nebraska or somewhere up north, in the Midwest, where they grow a lot of grains and stuff, and that's what he grew too. He was saying that they had some severe, heavy rains for days, 3 or 4 days, and all the fields all around were flooded. I mean, they were so deep in water, and destroyed a lot of crops. But his field was completely dry because all that water just soaked right down into the ground. I mean, there's no telling how deep it went, with all those microbes and mycorrhizae going in there and building up that soil, making it like a sponge. So the nice thing about his technique, if it's done correctly, you really don't have to have much irrigation, because once that water gets down in the soil deep, those roots are going down there with it, and they found that it's very successful, a successful way to do gardening. We're going to go ahead and plant these Fortex pole beans, and we're going to use the same trellis system that we've used before for the tomatoes and sweet potatoes and different things like that. And so I got a little bit of raking I wanted to do here to get this bed ready. Yeah, we got a tiller, but I haven't used it in a little while because I wanted to try to reintroduce this new system.
So folks, this morning, this is Sunday morning, it's not too bad out here at this time of the morning. It's going towards about 9:30, I think, or it's a little past 9. Grumpy is actually going to make only 2 rows instead of 4 rows of the beans, because we decided that we didn't want it too close together that we can't film while we're being able to harvest when the time comes. So he's using a very unique tool that he is making the rows with. So I'll turn it back around. This tool was gifted to us from the lady who we had our wedding in her yard. Her name is Dr. Elizabeth Lombard, or that was her name. And she died at an age of 100. She was almost 101 when she died. And she was a vegetarian, and she was an avid gardener up until about 2 years before she died. She still drove until she was 90, and she was just in really good health, but the last couple years of her life was when COVID came on the scene, and she became more inactive and was not able to survive the inactivity. So But she gave us this. It was from Ace Hardware, I think was the name of the place, in Rockwell, North Carolina. And it's just a real jewel of a tool. It's actually for, Bob's going to show it to you.
Yeah, basically, this is a little hoe that Dr. Lombard had bought. She was out in her garden. We went to visit her one morning. And she was out in her garden hoeing the weeds. And so I said, well, Dr. Lombard, let me try this thing out. So she gave it to me, and I started hoeing, and I wound up hoeing her whole garden. You know, at this point, she was in her late 90s. She didn't need to be doing all that. So, you know, her and Lynn went back in the house and talked about old times and things like that. And so, lo and behold, it wasn't long after that she had gone to Ace Hardware and bought me one. And so I've cherished this tool ever since then. And yeah, she was a real inspiration to Lynn and I both. Just kind of a matriarch in the church. She was just a very nice person. And I'll always cherish this little hoe. So I like to use it to make my rows and stuff, you know.
So he has one row already done, and now he's going to do another row, and then...
Well, I might just go ahead and seed this one.
Oh, okay. And then he'll put the poles up, I reckon, after he gets them planted.
Yeah. Well, show the trellis for the tomato trellis. We've got T-posts spaced every so far apart, and then we're using these the 1.25 inch T. I don't know if you can see it very well. It's just a plumbing PVC T that fits in the pipe and goes right over the top of the T-post. And it's so simple. All you have to do is just put the thing in there and drop it on top of the post, and away you go. You don't have to tie it down or anything like that. It just stays right there. But you know, the weight of the produce will keep it down. That'll be a few weeks from now before I'll do that. I'll let the plants get up, you know, maybe so high. Then at that point they're trying to climb, so they're looking for a string to climb on. And so we'll address that situation, you know, in a couple weeks or so once the plants come up. Well, folks, I'm really glad I decided not to try to do 4 rows, because this is all I had left. I got about 4 seeds left. So,
well, you should plant them.
Well, I am, but yeah, that's it. 4 seeds. So, yeah, this will make it much easier to film, you know, when we're picking. You'll be able to see what we're doing a lot better. Now, you know, Granny was over there picking those cucumbers, and they're not doing so well. We've had so much rain that you know, we have been struggling with powdery mildew. We've gotten powdery mildew on the cucumbers, the squash, and some of the different cucurbits. It looks like the watermelon and the big squash, the winter squash, has not been affected yet. Or
That's good.
hopefully they won't be. But I'm considering digging up those cucumbers and just replanting them too. But Lynn said that there are some female flowers that are producing, so I guess we'll let them go for another week or two, and you know, eventually we'll probably take them out. But
So we have a lot of tomatoes again, and I'm gonna have to. I'm pretty sure some of them are rotten.
oh yeah, there's a lot of rotten.
And I'm just gonna have to let them drop to the ground, which is more work for me because then I got to go back with a shovel and pick them up. But I don't know that I can keep up with. I might be able to about dropping them to begin with, just in the bucket. It'll take a lot longer and it'll take more time for me to just constantly be watching. I'm not sure that's what I want for myself. But then I also am not looking forward to picking them up with a shovel. So, it's one way or the other. So you just have to decide which one you want. The wind is blowing enough here to keep us cooled down. It's about 80 degrees now, and which is a little on the hot side. But it was so much cooler this morning when we got up, which was wonderful. And I've got a lot of peppers to pick, and I have, believe it or not, even some squash to pick. So as you can see, he is doing, he has covered up the seeds like he did earlier when he was planting other things. He covered them up, and then he is pounding with his tool to make sure that the dirt is like over the seed really well, because we're going to have to water, and we don't want the seeds being exposed. You know, birds and other critters, they tend to get a hold of your seeds if they're uncovered. But by doing what he's doing, then that doesn't happen. The seeds don't become uncovered.
Pull out those cucumbers and replace them. Just put in all new.
Oh.
What do you think, Lynn?
Well,
Let's see how many female.
you know how I feel about destroying that's already growing. I can't stand it. If you do it, just don't tell me. I'll see it later.
Well,
There's lots of baby cucumbers, is what I was saying. They're about 1 inch long.
all right.
I don't know if you're seeing them or not, but I can see them.
There's some there. We'll wait. But yeah, these okra, they should last right through to the frost or close to it. We're getting some bug damage, which you know, we try not to use insecticides. I mean, there's natural ways of dealing with you know, insects and all, but
We've just got to take the time to learn about what to do for it, because we have so little time.
yeah, that's the big issue.
By the evening hours, we could do it in the evening hours, look up, but the problem is when the evening comes, we're too tired to deal with it. We don't even want to look, you know. So, or I should say late afternoon hours, somewhere around 5 o'clock, that's when we peter out, and we just don't even want to deal with it. So,
Well,
but we got to do better than that. So
one other thing I want about these okra plants, they're they're basically a Clemson spineless variety. But there was a guy out in the Midwest, I can't remember if it was Missouri or Arkansas, somewhere in that area. He had taken the Clemson spineless and had developed them to where they would produce more fruit on a smaller plant. You know, because when we had our greenhouse, they'd grow 13 feet tall.
Yeah, and
Bob I had to get up on a ladder
to pick it.
To pick them. But these are, you know, nice and compact, and they produce a lot of fruit. As you can see, you know, there's startings here, there's 3 of them there, 4 over here. So at each juncture, they're producing 2, 3, 4 pieces of fruit, which, you know, as you can see where we've been picking, there's not that much distance between them. Whereas, you know, the tall varieties, you might have 8 inches between them, 10 inches. And these are only like maybe 2 or 3 inches apart. So it's an excellent variety. If you want to go to Baker Creek Seeds, they have these. They're called Heavy Hitter, and they're definitely a plus. So just a little tip for next year.
So I'm going to get set up so that I can go ahead and pick the peppers and the squash, and then we'll come back to the inevitable, which is the tomatoes, which I'm not looking forward to because you can't see like what I can see. But there are literally probably thousands of the little cherry tomatoes.
Yeah, the cherry tomatoes.
And there's probably, I don't know, maybe 30 of the other tomatoes, but a lot of them are rotten, so you can't see what I can see, and just not looking forward to
I think next year I'm going to plant less tomatoes.
Yeah,
they're just too hard to work, you know.
And I truthfully think that the yellow tomatoes have done much better this year than the red tomatoes have done. And I think we'll hopefully just knock out the red colored tomatoes and just do all yellow, because
we can do some red too, but
because I've really enjoyed
the orange. They are pretty nice.
I am not supposed to eat tomatoes, and I've been cheating. I've paid the price for it. The days that I eat the tomatoes, I suffer a lot with my rheumatoid arthritis, but it's hard not to do it because the yellow tomatoes have just been so wonderful. They've tasted so good, and we've gone back to eating only fresh milled whole wheat bread. And because of that, we've had a lot of bread around the house, and I'm eating it and eating a lot of it and actually losing weight from eating it. And before, when I was eating regular bread that's from the store, all I could do was gain. So I'm trying to figure out what can I put on this bread other than tomatoes, because the tomatoes taste wonderful, but they have been giving me a terrible fit. And I don't want to practice self-abuse, and that's what I'm doing whenever I'm eating these tomatoes. So let me get over there to the squash and to the peppers. Of squash, bug, eggs. So I'm probably going to go down through here because we've got some new squash plants, plus I have to be concerned about the ones across the way. as well, so I'm gonna fill out these eggs. Just so y'all will see and know what a squash bug egg looks like. And these were only a few. They're usually coming a lot at one time. But it's those little golden brown colored droplet looking things. Here's another one. Whoops. And they're usually in a whole bunch at one time. That one leaf only has 5 on it, and that's not normal. But these aren't long for this world because they're taking a ride down the Swanee River in a little bit. As soon as I get back in the house. So, I don't know if many of you, I do check to see what the age is of most of the viewers. And I realize that as far as what are watching the actual videos, the long videos, it's more people who are 65 and over, and there's some that are 45 to 55 and up as well. But because we've been doing a lot of shorts, we have a lot of younger people who are actually starting to watch. Now, I know they can't relate to this very well because the younger you get, the less likelihood it is that you had a parent who was gardening. Now, that's not to say everybody's like that, because that's not true. But in the world that we live in, probably in the last 30 years, more people have stopped gardening. They go to the grocery store for everything. And Grumpy's going to show you this bucket full of stuff.
Oh, well, you were going to do it. I've been down at the shop working.
Okay, well, let's look.
Go ahead. You explain.
Here is my bucket. Now, you see, it's mostly peppers. I would have never believed that in a million years. I do have and did get about 8 squash, but I don't know. I think the squash, they're pretty much just about to kill over dead completely. But we have a variety. There's some kind of pepper in there that I am not familiar with. I'm pretty sure it's hot.
Well, now these are cayenne right here.
Yeah, I know what that is.
Ones.
But
And
there was something short and stubby in there, and it wasn't
green,
granny.
There's some serranos. Well, that too. But
shame on you. Well, we're both short and stubby, aren't we?
Yeah, that's right. Well, anyway, there are some serrano peppers down there too. But yeah, these cayennes are they got some kick to them.
See, Granny ain't smart that crazy. She's smarter than that. I'm not gonna eat no hot pepper with
come
nothing.
On. One bite.
No. So that leads me to a story, folks.
Uh-oh, here we go. I know what's coming.
I don't think I've told you this. I may have, maybe when we first got started years ago, but okay, so let me put this back a little further just in case you can't see me very well. All right, so the story. Now, this is a funny story. So, Grumpy and Granny been married 48 years. Well, when we were dating, and it was only a few months till we got married. So, prior to Grumpy, I had been engaged to another man, and he was twice my age. And he was from out west and loved everything that had any kind of a southwestern or whatever kind of a Mexican type flavors, any kind of Spanish food. So when he would take me out, we would go anywhere and everywhere into all different kinds of cities around where I lived and all to find this. Well, one of the places that I had gone was called La Fiesta, and it was in Charlotte. Now, I had a baby brother. He died 2 years ago, and he was 10 years younger than me. And he just loved Bob just silly as a kid, and he loved him as an adult too, but we just didn't have, we were too many miles to spend time. Anyway, Tracy was his name, and he wanted to go with us on a date. And he loved Mexican food as a kid. So I am 20 years old. Actually, I think I was 21 at this point. And so that left Tracy to be 11. And so Bob went with me to go to this place, La Fiesta. And Tracy was with us, and of course, you know, he and Tracy were picking and laughing and joking and stuff, you know, and we go in the restaurant, and I'm telling Bob's not been to a Mexican restaurant before. So he really doesn't know anything about this Mexican food or what to expect. And so he sits down, and Tracy sits down on the inner side of the seat, and I sit on the outer side of it, and I'm telling Bob, okay, now look, I'm going to order us this jalapeno that's been cooked. But whatever you do, don't eat the seeds. And you can eat the flesh and it's fine, but don't eat the seeds because it'll burn you up. And I said, you will be on fire. Well, being the man that men are, that they don't listen to any woman.
Of course not. We're too stubborn.
So,
As I'm eating this cayenne pepper, she's telling this story.
and so anyway, we order our meal, and we all got water to drink. And she brought us a pitcher of water, which was pretty smart on her part, but not too smart on our part. So she brought us a lot of chips and the tomato sauce, the sauce that they give you. And we're waiting for our food. And so I'm telling him, the first thing she brings or lays on the table is this jalapeno. Now this jalapeno is pretty big. It was probably about that long. It was pretty big jalapeno. And I loved eating the jalapenos when they were cooked because, they weren't quite as hot and without the seeds. So we sit down and are starting to eat. She's laid all our food out and we start to eat it. And I just warn him again, whatever you do, don't eat the seeds. So Tracy's watching Bob to see what he's going to do. And I'm watching Bob too because I'm thinking, surely he will not do that. And we hadn't been dating for too terribly long, probably January, February. It was about February at this point. Well, he grabbed a hold of it and down the hatch. It's going to show how big a man he is.
Well, I'd never been really exposed to hot peppers that much because in our family, we never ate them. My mom never bought them. And when we went out to eat, we didn't eat stuff that had hot peppers in it. And so I was kind of just not in the know about them, I figured, well, they're not going to be that bad. It can't be that hot.
But I kept warning him, don't do it. And so, and Tracy knew. He knew. But he just sat there and watched. He didn't say a word. And so Bob starts to eat this jalapeno, seeds and all. And all of a sudden I looked across the table. His face is bright red. And he's crying profusely. He keeps drinking water, but
I drank the whole pitcher.
He did. He drank the whole pitcher, but he just drank out of the pitcher is what he did. I think I've got. I don't. I thought I might have a fire ant, but so he kept drinking water and kept eating pepper until the whole gallon pitcher was gone.
And the jalapeno.
And the jalapeno. And he's just burning and he's still crying. And I looked at him, I said, I told you not to do it. He's just sitting there. I know, but I didn't think it would be that hot. Oh, it was hilarious. And I thought Tracy was going to roll in the floor. He was laughing so hard at Bob because he knew what was going to happen. But he wanted to see Bob do this. So he wouldn't warn him because he's a boy and Bob's going to be more likely to listen to him. But he's just going to let him do what he's going to do. And so he's finished his food and nothing's taken the heat away. And he's still just crying and he can't get over this extreme heat that he's gotten into. Well, we all get finished and it's time to leave to go home. And he gets up and he's holding his stomach and he says, I'm sick. I'm really sick. He said, I don't think I can drive. And I said, well, that's okay. I'll drive. So we got him to the car. Now, we really had to help him because he was sick. He was really sick from this gallon of water he had drank and this jalapeno had eaten. And so we get him to the car and we lower him down into the front seat and put the front seat down so he can just sleep, the whole way back. Oh.
Well, I did eventually learn about hot peppers and and how to eat them. And I found that if you take a little bite of a pepper and just take a bite of food and a little bite of pepper and just munch them together, then you get a nice flavor and you get that, that hot feeling in your mouth, but it's not overwhelming. And so you don't want to just eat a jalapeno by itself. And, it's, although there's people that do it. I know a guy, they used to call him Gringo Loco. And he would go into just about any Mexican restaurant and ask for the hottest food they got. And they would say, oh, you don't want the hottest stuff we got. We got habaneros, we got ghost peppers, yada yada. And he'd say, no, I want the hottest thing you got. And so a lot of times they would say, well, I'll tell you what, I'll bring it out here, and if you eat the whole plate, it's free. So they'd bring their stuff out, give him his ghost pepper or habanero or whatever, and he'd eat the whole thing without even drinking water. I mean, this guy was like, I don't know how he did it, but so he got a lot of free meals that way. But
we have a friend at church who I think the name of the town he's from in Mexico is Monterrey, but I'm not positive about that. And
Oscar.
Yes, and he's always trying to get Bob and telling Bob, let's see how much of a man you are. And I look at Oscar and say, that don't prove nothing about being a man, let me tell you.
Well, he wanted me to grow in my garden. He wanted me to grow some Carolina Reapers. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with those, but it's basically the hottest pepper in the world. And, they're actually very dangerous. There have been people that have died from it, because if you get enough of this stuff in your intestines, it can destroy the lining of the intestine, and your bowels just leak out into your body, and you're gone. It's just too dangerous to even try to grow anything like that. But he did come to church one day with a Carolina Reaper. I don't know where he bought it, but I took a little bite off the tip and didn't get anything, and so I took a little bit more.
And cried like a baby.
It did show up after about the third bite. I said, no more.
Oh, me, and laugh and laugh. Oh. But anyway, the moral of this story is, don't eat the seeds in these different peppers, and some of the peppers just stay away because they really are not good for your stomach. In fact, there has been a report made that of all the different nations in the world, which ones die the quickest, and it is those who are Hispanic, and they die of stomach cancer. And they attribute it to the hot peppers that they eat, because it hurts them so bad. So don't go too crazy with eating your hot peppers. Well, I think I'm going to have to get going with these tomatoes, but I'm going to do that in another video. So we hope you have a blessed afternoon. We love you, but more important, Jesus loves you.
Amen.
And we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.